Okay, so over on my Instagram I posted a photo of these two parts here, this little TPU printed canopy and the Eachine RED DEVIL, and I asked opinions as to whether or not this canopy here would reduce or eliminate the jello from the video on this one, because this canopy here and this guy, as you saw in the review, it kind of bounces up and down and it does make quite a bit of jello while you're flying around. And I got some various opinions as to whether or not this would work or not. I actually don't know. I haven't actually done the mod yet, but I have seen other people's videos, and after they've done the mod, it does seem to be better. I'm thinking that this can't possibly make it any worse than it is already. I'm thinking that, yeah, it might not get rid of all of it, but I think it's worth a try. This part here you can get up on Thingiverse, and if you have a 3D printer, it's pretty easy to print out. It takes about an hour, I think. You're going to need some steel screws, so I have some M2 by 12 millimeter screws. If these aren't long enough to mount everything, I do have some a little bit longer M2 by 16 screws I might use. And what I want to do is, actually I'm going to try and do this without taking the props off, hopefully. But I want to try and raise this board up a little bit so that these plugs and the wires aren't hitting the battery. So that's one of the things I'm going to do, and part of this little modification, but it shouldn't take too long. I'm going to go ahead and obviously remove the zip ties, and I think there's a nylon screw that goes through this. I'm going to replace that with a steel screw, get rid of the canopy, mount the camera of course, but everything else is going to stay the same. But let's see how much weight difference this is going to make. First, let's see how much the canopy weighs. It weighs 3.6 grams about, and this is how much the Red Devil weighs before I change anything, 37.6 grams. So let's see how much it weighs after I make all the modifications. Okay, so I got the canopy off here. It's a little bit tricky, but you can see the nylon screws there holding, or the nuts holding the nylon screw onto the canopy. I'm not going to be reusing those here. Now, this is going to be pulled off, and then you can see the camera here plugged into the video transmitter. The video transmitter is on a little piece of foam tape here and a plug there from the flight controller. And I did pull off these grommets here, and they were, I think they were upside down like this. I'm going to flip them over so they're like this instead, and hopefully that'll raise up the flight control a little bit. And then I'll reuse the nylon nuts here along with the M2 steel screw up there. That nut should hold that in place along with the grommet, and then I can screw that long screw into the canopy. Obviously I'm going to have to screw down the camera to the canopy, and these screws here are going to be a little too long, so you're going to need some shorter M2 screws for the camera to mount that to the canopy, so keep that in mind. And I may take the video transmitter off of this pad here if I can't get everything to fit. It's going to be, yeah, it's a pretty tight fit there, so I think I'm probably going to have to remove that and then have the video transmitter at an angle in the back here, and then have the antenna come off the back. So it's a removable antenna. You have to take the antenna off to take it out of take the canopy off. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to get rid of this foam tape here. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here it is with the canopy already installed, and a couple things to note when you put the long screw in here and then you use the nylon nut here. Don't tighten it down all the way, because you still want to be able to spin the screw so that you can screw it into the canopy. So do that for all four. Now for the 3 grommets here, this one, the one in the back, and the one on the other side, they're this size here, but the one in the front was shorter, as you can see here. So I just used another nut here to fill in that gap, as you can see, and I'll make that nice and level. And you can see it's raised up a little bit now so that these plugs are not protruding so much here, so that should help. And it left pretty much everything else the same. I did take off that black piece of foam that was holding the video transmitter down. I removed that, and the video transmitter is just sitting at kind of an angle here inside. And then I just used a smaller, shorter screw here for the camera on both sides, and pretty much giving it maximum tilt there. But that's pretty much it. So to make sure that you can spin the screw here so you can screw it into the TPU, and this is on there pretty good. It's not going to come off even in a hard crash. I'm pretty sure this is not going to strip out. Let's see how much this weighs. Okay, so I've got to put the props back in here. And yeah, it's a little bit heavier than before, obviously because of the extra weight of the canopy and the steel screws. But the steel screws are going to keep it nice and rigid, so there ought to be less jello now from the camera, is my suspicion, because of the steel screws versus the nylon screws I was holding on the whole top section before. But 40 grams is not too bad. I think it's like an extra 2 grams. Anyway, so I think that the 12mm screw here is probably going to be okay if you want to source some of those. Maybe if you want an extra couple millimeters here for the gap for the XT30 connector, and maybe a little more space for the video transmitter, you could go with a 14mm screw perhaps, but this seems to be totally fine. So at this point, let's go ahead and see how this flies.